All right, welcome everybody to Unapologetically Woman. We are here with Cynthia Donovan, you guys, the period nutritionist. And today we're going to talk about the menstrual cycle on a different kind of level. But before we do, I want Cynthia to introduce herself. Thank you, Cynthia, for joining us. How are you? And tell us a little bit about you.
I am well. Thank you for having me here. This is my first LinkedIn slash podcast, all the things live. So, not that I haven't done live events before, but I'm excited to be here. And a little bit about me, I'll keep it kind of short. I am a registered dietitian. And I have been a registered dietitian for over 15 years, which sounds like it dates me a bit, but I guess that's not a bad thing, right? And also, I specialize or work with women that have lost their menstrual cycles due to not eating enough and maybe potentially too much exercise. And that's a condition called hypothalamic amenorrhea. So I work with women across the world, really supporting them in regaining their menstrual cycles through food, through the right kinds of exercise, through any kind of belief shifts that we have as far as what health really means. And I also, if they're wanting, like if that's their goal, pregnancy, supporting them on their fertility journey, whether or not they are pursuing fertility treatment or not, it's important that we're working kind of the same thing. If someone was like, I want to work with you to get pregnant, we're going to take the same approach to not only get your menstrual cycle back, because if you don't have a menstrual cycle, a healthy one, we're not going to make a baby. So so I have been doing that for the past over 5 years, but I've worked in all different areas of nutrition, from clinical to community to contract, USDA grants, etc. So yeah.
All right, great. So you guys can see why Cynthia is here because what we do is very, very, very similar. So, Cynthia, today we're going to focus on three concepts together, or three topics, because you mentioned about the mindset shift. And, I really focus on shifting that mindset in the workplace. So, we're going to talk about three things here today: how menstrual cycle awareness boosts productivity, how that actually happens, why ignoring your cycle drains confidence and leadership, presence, and what companies and DEI leaders need to understand to truly actually support women at work. We're hearing a lot of things lately about DEI, being inclusive, and a lot of times, women are feeling the side effects of this, and along with our menstrual health,
Yeah.
these things that it really takes a toll. So when it comes to how menstrual cycle awareness boosts productivity, in your clients, how you see this and how you understand this, I already know, just for others to actually understand the data behind this, there was a 2022 Flow Health study that actually showed that 58% of women say that their menstrual symptoms negatively, like, it affects their work.
Mm,
So, like, almost 60% of women are like, look, my menstrual symptoms affect how I work.
yeah.
So, so it's like, okay, so we really have to start then bringing this to the workplace attention. Like, somehow we have to get this conversation started. So, in your experience with the clients that you have worked with, because I checked out, your testimony, I was like, this is so fabulous. Have you noticed a difference in the way that women perform or their productivity, when it comes to what they do personally?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer this kind of in a two different scenario type of way, because most of the women, when I initially start working with them, they have no menstrual cycle. They have nothing to be like, oh yeah, I'm in my follicular phase and I'm more creative or whatever. So they're just like pretty much flatlined. And what I mean by that is a lot of them are almost, I would say a lot of them are super productive because they have very type A personalities. They're running on stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. So they are super productive, like all the time. Like there's no ebb and flow. It's we're running on stress hormones because the body doesn't have enough fuel to have this menstrual cycle. So that's kind of one part. But then I also want to talk about, all right, well, what happens when you do have a menstrual cycle and you do get your period back? So I'm going to throw in a little bit of personal experience here. So, and I guess a personal story. So for me, I do have a regular menstrual cycle, and I've had that for many, many years now. And I'm very in tune with it, of where I am in my cycle, what's going on, my hunger, my productivity, my all the things. And what I can tell you is, let's start with the first phase of the cycle, which is having your period or having your bleed. And that is when I am just tired. And most women are. They're not like, yeah, let's go, like, conquer the world. So the productivity for me, sometimes I have to keep up with it, but it's not as easily flowed as if it were in the next phase of the cycle, which is your follicular phase. So to me, a time when I have my cycle is a time to kind of go inward, to not be as like crazy. So I might not, record a very important podcast where I need to be on point. Right. And so this is across the board too with women with their periods. I have never heard from many women to be like, yeah, I'm just ready to conquer the world when I have my cycle. But then we move into the follicular phase. We end our periods, and it's like, that is the time where it's like, let's do this. And I can tell you personally, for me, I am creative. My brain is flowing, like creating content. I create my content and I do my heavier projects in my follicular phase. Now, do I plan out, I look at my month and be like, okay, this is my follicular phase. And then, no, I don't get that specific by any means, but I know now where I really, I guess I'm trying to think of a better word, where I do better with certain things during certain times of my cycle. So my follicular phase is typically the creativity phase, and you'll see a lot of women say this as well. And so I would say in the workplace, it's like, well, tackle that big project or do that awesome presentation. And so then after that, you have your ovulatory phase. Some women are like, yeah, like no difference. I'm good, kind of same. But other women are just like, my energy levels are starting to tank. And ovulation takes a lot of energy out of the body. So some women can get cramping. Some women can just get pretty heavy menstrual signs, as if they're having their period, but not getting their period. So, but some are described as playful. It's your fertile time. Like that's when it's your window to make a baby, if that's what you're wanting to do. So, and then there is your luteal phase. And the luteal phase tends to be a little bit less energy. Your metabolism's a little bit higher. You might be hungrier. So this time, your luteal phase, I'm actually in my luteal phase right now. And I'm like, why am I so tired? I'm like, oh, okay. This can happen at any time. Tiredness can be affected by so many things, but this is the time of the month where, when I'm getting close to my cycle, I'm not doing super big projects because I just don't have that spark in me. So, and I hear this across the board from many women, and I try to encourage women that do stay with me as clients after they get their periods back to say, all right, we need to look at your training, like your exercise levels and how much, what you're doing, and kind of phase that out. So you're giving your body what it needs during wherever you are in your menstrual cycle. And that's one of the coolest things about having a uterus is that, and if you're at the age of being fertile, that we get to base a lot of our stuff around where we are, I guess, I'm looking for this word that I can't think of, Tanya, but where we excel in our cycles, kind of capitalizing on your cycles. But I also want to say that we can't get in our heads like, I am in my luteal phase. I'm about to get my period. Sorry, boss. I can't do this project because I'm in my luteal phase. Right. So I don't want you guys to get in your head to be like, oh my gosh, well, I can't do this. Like I can't do certain things. You can do anything at any particular time. We just want to try to connect more deeply with our body, with where we excel, where we are in our cycle. But I don't want you to get it stuck in your head that you can't or you won't be as good as if you were in certain parts of your cycle. So is that helpful?
Yes, it's helpful. If anyone has been following me for a while, you're already aware of the different phases and the energy curve that I tend to show.
Yeah.
And most people will understand because what I do is we actually do track out follicular, ovulatory, luteal. You do put it on your calendar and you will plan your meetings around it. You will do this. So my clients actually do that and they coordinate their exercises with whatever phase that they're on. They coordinate their meals with whatever phases they're on. And it's very interesting. And like, you brought up a good point. It's not to say like, no, you can't do anything, but the way that you do it, you move about it differently. Because especially in the luteal phase, I notice is that it tends to be a time where a lot of things come up for you in the luteal phase.
Yeah.
If there are things that you know that you're not dealing with, that you're repressing, a lot of times it will come up, like, so it extends like to our entire being, our workplace, our relationships, the way we communicate, it all changes. And it's like, okay, once we honor that, it's like, okay, I realize this. So when I'm luteal, it's best for me to focus on the data, look at the numbers, because I'm more reflective, something that I can just stay into this space. And it's like, okay, you know what?
Black and white.
You're black and white. And then it's like, okay, what's working? What's not working in our strategy that we were doing the past 2 weeks? Okay, this is how we're going to move forward going forward. It's a very beautiful and strategic time. I feel the luteal phase, and it gets a lot of bad rep, so it's about, changing that narrative when it comes to our menstrual health and how employers can help with that, because tracking the cycle, it helps women anticipate that energy dip or that peak and when it's gonna happen. And it's like, okay, I already know this is about to happen here. Okay, how can we go about this? Like how can we do this? How can we make this better? And I love what you said about it starting with food, because that's like the main thing. I'm like, a lot of women for some reason don't eat as much in their luteal phase. And I'm like, this is when you should be eating more. Like, this is when you should be eating more. Like, get those carbs in, girl. Like, if you're craving sugar, it's not because you want sugar, it's because your body wants food. Like, your body wants energy. So be more mindful of what you're eating, which is why I love having you here as a registered dietitian to actually go on that. Like, that is beautiful for us. What do you have to say about women? Because you mentioned about the productivity, like for women who are running on those stress hormones. Like, ideally, you don't want to be running on stress hormones. And I don't want anyone to think that that's okay, that they're going to be super productive by just running on stress hormones. So how do you deal with that when it comes to your clients?
Yeah, so pretty much all of them are running on stress hormones because they do not have a menstrual cycle. So, everything you talk of, I try to build them up to say not only is a period going to help with your fertility, help with your heart health, your bone health, all the things, but it's really going to help you be more in sync and in tune with your body so that you can do certain things during certain times of the month and really excel and so forth. So, but that takes time to get there. And the first thing is nutrition, is proper nutrition, but it's also proper rest, because there are exercise, like, we live in a world today, unfortunately, that is very image focused, where it's like you need to look a certain way, right? And so I'm not saying that all the women I work with are fixated on what their bodies look like, but many of them are, and many, even women that don't lose their menstrual cycles, can still be fixated on their bodies and still be stressed out. And it might be time until those stress hormones wreak havoc on your hormone health, your female hormone health. So, those women that are running on these stress hormones, again, across the board, they're all of them. We start to focus on, are you eating enough? And then, are you eating enough of the right foods? Not like a ton of vegetables and protein. Just like you were mentioning carbs, like if your body's craving sugar, carbs are the quickest source of energy to the body. So your body's just being smart. It's not like, oh yeah, protein's just going to give me the energy that I need to. No, sugar, carbs is going to do it. So many of the women I work with, carbs and fat is just not something they are wanting to eat because of various reasons. Right? Maybe it's body image, maybe they're athletes and they're worried if they do gain weight, they're going to be slower, so forth. So it starts with eating enough of the right foods, having a balanced plate. And that may look different for each woman, but it's having adequate carbohydrates, it's having adequate fats, adequate protein, and some vegetables. Now, for the women I'm working with, is we need to get those calories in. We need to figure out a way. And vegetables are not the way to do that. There's a place for these beautiful micronutrients, but we need those macronutrients as well. So we focus on, if we do have some vegetables, limiting the amount and making sure there's a fat source added to them, making sure they're not tons of raw, because too much fiber isn't conducive to getting our estrogen back online. So, and vegetables take up a lot of space. Think of your belly, they take up a lot of space versus, something with fat or carbs in it. So eating enough of the right foods frequently throughout the day, not saving all of your calories to the end of the day and be like, oh, well, Cynthia said to eat this much, so I'm just going to save it at nighttime. So we want to eat that throughout the day so we keep balanced blood sugar. Our body is knowing like, oh, it's safe around here. There's food, which might sound silly, but when you have lost your menstrual cycle and you are running on stress hormones, your body is thinking it's in this constant state of fight or flight and potentially famine if you don't have a menstrual cycle. So it's eating consistently throughout the day. And it's also, I like to say, giving yourself the freedom to have foods that you want. And easier said than done, because again, we live in a society where we demonize certain foods and other foods are better. Other foods are, not so good, so allowing yourself, if you want to get that like tasty latte at your favorite coffee shop, that you do it, but maybe you do that alongside of having a snack with it, depending what kind of milk you're getting. If you drink cow's milk, there's going to be a fairly amount of protein in there. So, it's being smart with your decisions that are going to help that body feel a little bit more safe and relaxed. So, so those are my kind of biggest take homes. And also, let's start to normalize food. That food is just food. Not that it's good, not that it's bad. That food is just food. And then there's certain types of food that put better energy in our tank. So if you're going to eat pancakes for breakfast, then just a bagel for lunch, and then let's just say a sandwich with minimal protein for dinner, A, that's not going to be enough food. And B, that's pretty much straight up carbs. Our body needs protein. Our body needs fat. So, and then the same difference goes for if you're just a protein and veggie eater, we need carbs and we need fat. So yeah.
Yes, I love this, especially mentioning the fat. Especially
It's essential
mentioning
for hormone health.
it is very essential, and it's just very interesting how that perspective is flipped as a general message in society. Like this, our health is flipped the way that we see things, and it's unfortunate. And I think we all know the history by now. A lot of times research was done based on a man's biology. It really had no consideration of the woman at all. And it's like, yeah, we're different. Like, like we are legit different. We're not equal. Like, don't flatter yourself, It's just very interesting how that comes about. So knowing this, and women, so what happened? Now we're kind of taking a turn here, you guys. Anything can happen on Unapologetically Women. I want to know what happened to the women who did not have their periods. I would like to know, were they able to still keep that same productivity, once their periods came back? What was the struggle? Like, was there like anything that they really had to get through? And of course, everyone, please be mindful. This does not apply to every single woman. This is why every woman needs to start by tracking your cycle. And I don't mean just your menstruation. I mean all of them. Okay. Yeah. Like, just, this is why that's important. But I'm just asking in a general sense. Okay. Everyone, just to be mindful of that. So Cynthia, what have you noticed with that?
Yes. And Tanya, before I answer that question, I just want to say the tracking of the cycles, right? If you are on the birth control pill, you're going to probably mimic a quote unquote normal looking cycle, but that is not a normal cycle if you're on external hormones. So, and I'm not going to go any more in depth because everyone's on, birth control pills. Maybe it's for contraceptive, but it does mask what the menstrual cycle is doing. And maybe you have talked about this before. So I just want to, that's a big one, because women come to me and they're like, but I've gotten a period. I'm like, oh, it's not really a period. And so anyways, I don't want to go too far into that. And I want to go back to your initial question. So again, these women I work with, initially they come in running on stress hormones, type A, productivity. They are just like, they're on it. Like if you need a project done, one of my clients is going to be the girl to go to, or she's going to be the doctor to go to. She's going to be whatever. So what happens is when we start to refuel the body and we're giving the proper nutrition, these stress hormones start to come down. And often ladies will feel like, oh, I'm tired. Like I don't have the same like pizzazz as I usually do. And this is bad, right? Because we live in a world that you have to be productive, get that checklist done, do more with less. And then they start to feel a little bit bad about themselves. And I come in and I reassure them that, and this doesn't happen to everybody, but most women that I work with, they come to this place of like, oh my gosh, like I don't have that usual drive, and like what's wrong with me? And I say, there's nothing wrong with you. Your body, those stress hormones are finally coming down. And then sometimes they'll say, well, maybe it's all the carbs I'm eating now, because for some reason along the way they found out carbs might have been bad for them when they're not. And maybe it's the food I'm eating. Maybe this is not right for me to do. And again, I will gently reassure them that, this is the right thing for your body. Your menstrual health is weighing, and a lot of your health is weighing on your menstrual cycle. So this is normal to feel that more fatigue. This is your body finally saying, oh my gosh, yes, I don't have to keep up these stress hormones anymore. And that it can start to sink into having the estrogen, having the FSH, the LH, the things that we have to have a menstrual cycle. And finally, it's like, oh my gosh, she's letting me rest, And so I like to say, when you get hungry, eat. When you feel tired, and again, some of us don't have the ability to drop down and take a nap, in the middle of our workday, but honor that tiredness. Can you go to sleep early? Can you skip the workout or the walk? Can you tell your boss that deadline, you're not going to meet it? So I had a client that I can't remember her exact position, but she worked somewhere in software and stuff. And she's like, I let my boss know what was going on with me because I feel completely, like I'm not as productive, and I know why. And she accepted the fact. And she let her boss know, like, just want to kind of give you a heads up. And luckily she had a boss that was like, okay, cool. Thank you for sharing this for me. Thank you for being honest. So, but eventually your energy levels pick back up and you start to feel more like yourself, but it's really your body's way of saying like, oh, finally I can rest. These stress hormones are down, and, my body's starting to feel safe again and not constantly on alert.
I love that. And I can see definitely how that would be a trigger. Especially, I feel like with a lot of women, it was the resting that was the issue. When it came, I'm like, you're bleeding. You can rest. It's okay, And it was like such a turmoil. Like it was like confusion now. Like, yeah. And the fact that they have that resistance lets me know even more it needs to happen, And it's like, it's because we've gone through it, I don't know anyone who's listening, but when we talk about certain things, it's not because we have it all together. It's because we went through all the business.
Mm-hmm. And
we're here.
We still are experiencing life, right?
It's so funny because I actually talked about my first hot flash experience, and which is funny because just a quick side note, I know a lot of people think that perimenopause starts in your 40s, but it actually can start as early as 35. So this is why, you guys, it's important to track, okay, every single thing. But I remember talking about my first hot flash, and oh my gosh, like I was like, really? This is what? And even that, I feel like entering into getting our first period is met with this like pain and disgrace and shame. And even going into perimenopause, it has this like, oh, you're about to go through all this craziness, like we're about to be insane. And I'm like, wow, we really have to change this narrative, not only like society wise, but women. Like we have to start changing that narrative. I'm like, whoa, this is this is big here. It's so subliminal.
Agree. 100%.
Yes. And I know we only have like 5 minutes left and we were going to get into something else, but that's okay because I feel like the productivity and understanding like how different we are as women is so much more important. And I would like to know, Cynthia, are you accepting new clients? What's going on? How can we like support you?
Yes, I am. And a couple things I want to throw out there because the work that I do in the specific niche of hypothalamic amenorrhea or specific women's hormone health of hypothalamic amenorrhea is very understudied. So I'm going to share about how you can work with me too, but I think this is of more importance because this is something I struggled with over 10 years ago and it's still happening just as frequently as it was. There are more resources out there. There's myself, there's other dietitians that, specialize in this. There's some more doctors that know, but the majority of medical professionals, the first person we're usually going to when we have a period issue is not really aware. So, and that's for various reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is there's a lack of research. So I am actually working closely with Dr. Christiana Schufelt. She's from the Mayo Clinic in Florida, if you're listening in the States. And I'm going to give you the links, if I haven't given them to you already, on how to potentially be a part of this research if you are missing your menstrual cycle. Because the more research that we can do on women's health, because we know there's way more in men's health than there's women's health. In this particular condition, I want to say there's only maybe a little over 100 original publications compared to I don't want to call it its sister condition, but many women with hypothalamic amenorrhea are misdiagnosed with PCOS. And so I think there's 7,000, 8,000, I can't remember the exact number of original publications on PCOS. So there's a call to action there. So I'm going to include that there. And then if you listened and you're like, yeah, my period's been missing or I'm on birth control and I don't know, and I fit this like type A personality, I'm very healthy, productive, working out all the time. Yes, we might need to talk. So I am accepting new clients right now, and I work in a beautiful community of women because I think having and being in community is so much more influential and creating that behavior change that we need to become the best, unapologetic versions of our womanly self.
Agree. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Cynthia, thank you for being here. I am going to drop Cynthia's link. Cynthia, you said that you have a link for the research.
Yes, I do.
Can you send that to me very quickly and I can just drop it here so everyone can participate. I love that. Do you know it's so funny. I met Dr. Christine Metz, who's one of the researchers for the Endometriosis Foundation, by being on film set for a movie called Periodical. It's a documentary about women and their periods. And because she's a part of the Rose study, that's how I actually got into like the research aspect of like what is going on. And I'm just like, that is beautiful. So yes, research is very important. So yes, please go ahead and give us that link so that we can drop it in here and have more people participate in that, because the more people participate, the more data, the more understanding. Research and knowledge is power, you guys, and then we can apply that knowledge. So yes.
And I did drop a podcast link as well. So what we covered in this short half hour, I also have a podcast where you want to hear all the stuff about missing periods and how to get it back, and amazing special guests.
Okay, got it. So I have the podcast, but I'm looking for the research. Oh, I don't see it.
I put it in the private chat here.
Oh, okay, got it. You put it in the private chat. Okay.
Yes, sorry.
It is all good. Okay, perfect. Oh, yay. Now I see it. Okay.
Awesome. And I'm not like doing the research, but I am really helping Dr. Schufelt get participants, because in research, there's not a budget for getting participants. You just have to figure out what it seems like, at least in this research, that the more that social media and social we can get out there, the better success that they're going to have and the more data we'll collect. So
That is amazing. That's, yes, beautiful things out here. Thank you so much, Cynthia. And thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to send us a message to the show. All right, letting us know your thoughts and any questions that you might have. You can send a quick text message there. It is in the podcast description. And for those watching and joining us live, thank you so much for your love and support of women's health, and enjoy the rest of your day.
thank you.